Hi, everybody. How are you doing? What a gorgeous day today, Thursday. Hopefully, the kids are back home and you are able to grab a cup of coffee and join us for about half an hour on this latest segment of Ask Nina. And today, I'm seeing that the weather is so beautiful and everything is turning green and blooming. I wanted to have a special guest here to talk and share with us information. Excuse me, I have a bit of a cough. Information about curb appeal, because when people are selling a home, curb appeal is definitely a very important aspect of the home appeal and attracting people right from the get-go before they even step into your house. So you want to make sure that people are driving by as they see the sign that they are going to see a well-maintained and well-loved house and neighborhood. So with me today is special guest PeterDoyle. Peter is the owner and landscape architect of PeterDoyle Partnership Inc. And today we're going to talk about all things curb appeal and gardening. Hi, Peter.
Thank you, Nina. Thank you, audience. Thank you so much for inviting me. And I welcome the opportunity to talk to you about curb appeal. I thought I would first start off, to find what is the meaning of or the definition of curb appeal. Mm-hmm. And I thought I would mention that first. So curb appeal is the attractiveness of a property for sale, mm-hmm. and its surroundings when viewed from the street, landscaping, the front entrance or the focal point, and the condition of the paint or siding are the biggest factors in curb appeal of a home.
That is very true.
Be it commercial or residential.
Yes. Yeah. It's definitely true because, when I do my staging consultation, when I'm visiting a client, it's one of the first things I see, yes. And funny enough, I went to see a house this week, and before I even went into the house, I did a walk around the house to take a look at the front yard, the side yard, as well as the backyard. And, things that I always pick up on are, hi, Claude. The things that I pick up on were that the cobblestones on yes. the side yard was all lifting up mm-hmm. and uneven. Yes. So not only does that not look good, it's actually a safety hazard as well, right? Because people can trip on it, yes. right? So, but I really think that when you're attracting people right from the curb itself, it really tells potential buyers, it gives them a message that this home is well loved from the outside and inside. That's right?
So correct. It's like when property buyers want to buy a home, the first thing that they notice is the outside of the home, the mm-hmm. curb appeal. Does it have nice architectural lines? The brick, the foundation planting, the walkways, the shrubs. That's I think that's the biggest catalyst that people notice, and then after that, it's like judging a book by its cover. It's like a nice cover design, and what they want to kind of open the cover and read or look at the pictures. That's the same as curb appeal. So
right.
I think if you have a nice looking home from the outside, it's the first step in bringing a potential property buyer into the home. So
for sure,
curb appeal is very important.
Yes.
Yes.
But today, really, we don't want to just focus in on people who are getting ready to sell. Right. Curb appeal is important to anyone, right?
Yeah, anyone.
People who are living in their home have yes. no plans to move whatsoever.
Yes.
So the information that you're going to be sharing today is going to be valuable to anyone yes. who is interested in gardening and improving their curb appeal.
Exactly.
So, I think we talked a little bit about it already, but if you can just expand on it, why it's important to have good curb appeal.
Well, I mean, as a homeowner, having good curb appeal is very important. To have a very nice, looking home, a focal point from, the outside looking in is very important. As for myself, our home, I'm more of a traditionalist that I use more very formal landscaping in terms of our foundation planting, I use boxwoods because it's very formal. I use coniferous material for framing the windows. I don't really have a lackadaisical type of shrub or deciduous materials that that is free flowing or forming. I use more of a formal landscape with coniferous materials in order to frame the front of the house.
Right, right. So the using coniferous too, I think it gives that great foundation, and
Yes.
it's something that will make your curb appeal look great all year round.
All year round.
All year round,
All
right?
year
Because you
round.
don't want just seasonal flowers, and then
Correct.
in the winter it just doesn't look nice. But it's about layering too, right?
Well, it's all about layering, and I mean, you can use a dwarf coniferous or materials or dwarf deciduous. Hopefully with with the same type of autumn bloom and color. Don't have multiple shrubs with multiple colors in the foundation planting. So that's why I'm a big planner of that for foundation plantings or for curb appeal.
Yeah.
And what a lot of people do is they don't know the materials, the shrubs in terms of the growth pattern, or the trees in terms of how big they grow.
Right.
And sometimes that's a problem in terms of planting, is that people don't know, and they the shrubs, the trees, instead of being 1x in terms of growth, they go 10x, and it's overplanting and overgrowth.
Yes. And then it's going to be a lot of maintenance.
Well, a lot of
Yeah.
maintenance, or else at the end you have to take the shrubs or the trees out because it's like overgrown.
Right,
So,
right.
yeah.
So you brought up a good point. You said dwarf coniferous,
Yes.
and I think that dwarf coniferous is very good as well, because you don't want, especially in front of a window, let's say, it's important not to block that natural light.
Yes.
You can still achieve great curb appeal and landscaping in the front of your home while still letting in all the natural light within the house. Because when I'm working with a property to get it ready to sell, that's one of the really key important things, is making sure that there's lots of natural lights coming into the house.
Yes.
And sometimes when there are overgrown plants and shrubs and things like that, often I tell people to try and to cut it back in as much as possible, so that they can let that natural light come in, because that will make the house feel brighter and airier and just more welcoming.
Yes.
Right?
You're so true. That's right.
Yeah. So when people think about landscaping, they think, or working with a landscape architect, they think that it can be pretty expensive, and you can, right? Like with anything, there are going to be different price points. But do you think that people can achieve, good landscaping on a budget?
Yes. What in terms of foundation planting and the walkway as a focal point to the front door, yes, they can do it. You can maybe do it for $2,000 to have a walkway and a foundation planting. But I mean, is landscaping expensive? Yes and no. I mean, I've done jobs that are like $600,000 in terms of residential properties. I mean, they put pools in, they put in infinity pools, they put in decks, they put in kitchens and seating areas, and it's endless what they can do.
Did you say 600,000?
Oh, at least. Yeah.
Wow.
That's
Those are mega $1 million rolls.
What? That's just the backyard. Forget the front.
Oh my
But,
goodness.
So I mean, it's endless what people can spend, but it depends on the size of trees. If you want 10-year-old trees, you have to bring them in. They have 2 years growth, and they're $2,000 each. I mean, as opposed to a tree for a year's growth is $300 or $400.
Right.
It just depends. I mean, it depends on the budget. But
Yes.
landscaping could be expensive, or it could be reasonable.
Mhm.
But in terms of the homeowner itself, you could do something for $2,000 or $3,000, do it yourself. But I think the most important thing about landscaping is to do a plan. I mean, sketch it out yourself. Look at this. The symmetric aspect of it. Try not an overplant, but try and draw it to scale. And look at the trees, and if you look at the trees, it'll tell you the tree has a certain growth, and it'll tell you what the scale is after so many years. And so I would draw it to scale, and so you don't overplant or the material doesn't get overgrown. But that's the most important thing about landscaping is, sketch or have someone draw it up for you. And look at the whole picture as opposed to piecemeal.
So having said that, then if some of our audience here wants to do the landscaping on their own, would you provide them with a plan? Would you work with somebody to help provide a plan?
By all means, being a landscape architect, we do the plans commercially and residentially. Being AutoCAD or SketchUp Pro or whatever, but we do only the plans. We're not a landscaper in the sense that we do the actual landscaping itself. But when we do commercial jobs or residential jobs, we put our jobs out to tender, and we have the contracting companies bid on it. But that's our specialty. We draw out the plans, metric or even from architectural scale. And we do all the plans and all the specifications, and that's our strength.
Excellent. So when you're planning it out and you're doing the drawings and sketching, you're drawing it to full scale.
Yes.
But how long should people, what's the length of time that people should expect from the time that it's been, put in place to full growth? Like what? Yeah. Because sometimes, what people see is that, you planted, all the plants look so small and puny, and, people get impatient, right? They want full growth right away. So how long should people expect to wait to get to that point?
You mean like in terms of full growth? Well, it depends, because we could buy, shrubs with 2 years growth, 3 years growth. It just depends. We could buy them, small caliper, like, a couple months growth. It just depends what they're prepared to spend. You want to buy a shrub, you want to buy a tree that's more mature, you're going to pay for it. But you could buy a tree 5 years old, and pay for it, but then it's going to bloom or grow in your backyard or front yard and give you more growth. Right. So it just depends on the budget. So it just depends.
Yes. So when people are planning to sell and getting ready to sell, obviously they don't have that luxury of time to get a new landscape plan to full maturity.
Right.
So really people should be investing in more mature plants and even planters, right? Wouldn't you agree with some seasonal plants?
Yes. Oh yeah, most definitely. It's a good point about planters or retaining walls. It's like know your property, know your backyard. If you have a sloped property, a lot of people, what they do is they plant trees and shrubs on a sloped property and with bad drainage. So it comes into the fact that you have to kind of do retaining walls, right, which is important. So knowing your property as a homeowner is very important. The slope of the land, knowing the soil, if it's clay, knowing the drainage.
Now, so when you're helping a client plan out their landscape design, let's say, would you be able to help them determine the soil, the drainage and things like that? Yeah, and slope and things like that?
Most definitely, yes, I do.
Good.
One thing about residential properties, about drainage or grading, is that you cannot change the grade of your home residentially unless you go to the municipal office, and you'd have to get a permit. You'd have to get civil engineer to do the drawings in order to change the grade because of drainage, and it has to be approved by the planning department. So that's very important, that you can't change the grade of your property unless you have a municipal stamp from the civil engineer and approval from the town.
Excellent. Good to know.
Well,
the town needs to get involved in everything, right?
Oh, they do. Yeah, which is good.
Right. Because we want to make sure that people do it right too, right?
That's right.
By code, by policy. So what are some of the, basic things that our audience should be aware of when planning out their landscape design? Like do you have any sort of 3 basic recommendations?
Well, budget's important, which is important. I think the most important thing is the actual plant material itself. Know the plant material, know the growth. If you know that a maple tree is going to be a circumference of 20 feet, which will probably, like in terms of, full growth, people don't know that. So I had a problem here in our backyard. We planted a autumn blaze maple that grew crazy, and it had like a 25 foot circumference and took our whole yard up, and we had to cut down. So know the plant material, know how it'll grow. And when it's mature, it's going to have a certain circumference of a foot or 2 feet. So knowing the plant material and its growth habits are very important. If plus also if you have a open backyard that's has a lot of sun or a lot of shade, know your material that you can implement that is like a shade bearing tree or a tree that is good for sun protection.
Right.
It's very important.
It's funny that you mentioned that. At our house, our neighbor next door planted a tree. I don't know the name of the tree, but they planted it. We have a pool,
Okay.
so they planted it pretty close to their house and our house, like in between the fence,
yes.
that is. And what they didn't realize was that the tree was a very fast growing tree, and it's an enormous tree.
So you have leaves
And
on both
so,
sides.
yes, well, they wanted a large tree for shading,
Okay.
but now the tree is sort of overwhelming, and I think the root, it's so big that the root is actually coming over to our side and possibly could be encroaching on our pool, which could be a problem, right? So you have to worry, consider things like that with your neighbors as well in the neighboring property.
Well, you know what? Good point, Nina. Because a lot of trees have a deep root system, and like you said, I mean, they have lateral root systems. It's probably going to come in and hit your foundation wall of your pool, which is a real problem.
Yes, yes. And right now, because the canopy of the pool, the tree is actually so big that it's actually hitting their roof line as well. So I'm sure that it'll have to be addressed fairly soon, I think.
I think it'll have to be taken out,
Yeah.
addressed, which is a nice word.
Yes, it'll have to be addressed soon, I think.
Yes.
Now, what are some of the things that people should avoid other than like planting big, enormous trees between you and your neighbor?
Good point. I think people should research, landscaping. I mean, come with a plan. Learn the materials. There's hard landscape, which is like more of the powder concrete, retaining walls, walkways, pools, and soft landscape, which is mostly shrubs and trees and so on. Soft landscape. I think a well-designed plan or master plan at the beginning is important. If you want to put in like a pool or cabana or a seating area, map it out. I mean, because that's the most important thing. Then everything is harmonized in terms of flow and pedestrian flow and flow within the family and walkway patterns. Having a plan, having things thought out is the most important thing in the landscape.
Yes. So just winging it. Avoid winging it.
Avoid winging it, because a lot of people do things piecemeal. They start in a small portion of the backyard and do a tree and maybe a seating area, but then later on they do this, they do that, but there's no flow, there's no harmonization. Right. So I think sitting down, doing a master plan of like a seating area, a pool, maybe a hot tub area, a deck. That's the most important thing. So always come up with a plan. Is the most important thing in good landscape design.
See, I'm always very envious of people who have really beautiful gardens, because I always wonder how they get it to look like that, because I can't seem to do it. I have the worst black thumb ever, and so I cannot plant anything or grow anything to save my life. So, but I'm always very envious of it. So, having said that, for people like me who just can't get a plant to grow or look great to save her life, or people who are really busy, what would you recommend would be some nice low maintenance plants to add to your design.
You know what? To be honest with you, Nina, it's been 35 years since I graduated in landscape architecture. We have landscape interns working with us now that specialize within plants. And to be honest with you, I don't have the answer. But I'm more of a boxwood person. I'm more of a coniferous person.
Okay.
I like, a very formal landscape. I've always liked Versailles. Interesting, the geometrical shape of the landscape of Versailles Gardens. And even at our house here, the front, the back, we use boxwoods galore. Even our new house, we're going to use boxwoods. So, I could talk to you about maple trees. I could talk to you about Austrian pines, white pines, and other trees first. But in terms of plants, to be honest with you, I have to have one of our interns be here and tell me about that.
Okay. Maybe on the next episode then.
Well, the next episode, that would be good.
All right. All right.
I'm always really big in geometrical design. I don't really believe in. Our strength is not English gardens with a lot of trees and shrubs and flowering plants. We're more into formal landscapes. My strength is more of the hard landscape, the structural landscape. And I know. 35 years ago, I knew flowering plants and this and that. I like lilacs, but just nice and forsythias.
Yes.
But in terms of plants and so on, I'd have to bring Diana in to talk to you about flowering shrubs and plants.
Okay. All right. Next episode.
Next episode.
Yes.
Thank you so much. Yeah.
So thank you very much for
You're
joining
welcome.
me today
You're very
and
welcome.
sharing some very insightful information about
pleasure,
landscape.
Nina.
It's definitely a topic that I am lacking in because I just don't know how to do it, and
Okay.
I can't seem to get the look that I desire. I know what I like, but
Yes.
I can't seem to make it happen on my
Okay.
own. So thank you very much for
Thank you,
sharing
Nina.
the information
Thank you, audience.
with our audience.
To our
And
next
so
episode.
if,
So I can brush up on those flowering shrubs.
right.
Thank you.
So if people want to be able to reach you,
Yes.
and if they have more questions, how can they do that?
I can give you my email address. I have two of them. The first one is Doyle, Dyle, 87 at sympatical.ca, and the other one is Peter at the pkdpartnership.ca.
Perfect.
Thank you, Nina.
Well, thank you very much, and we'll have to talk more about flowering shrubs next time.
Thank you, Nina.
All right.
Pleasure.
Thanks
Bye.
for tuning in, everybody. Bye now.
Bye-bye.